Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. I kept my mouth shut about the elections in Turkey, where supposedly Erdogan is challenged by someone and there's a runoff. So they couldn't determine, he didn't win 50% of the votes in the first, so now he's going to run against another candidate. The runoff will be done this weekend, so that's when the Turks will go and elect their new president. We already know who supports whom in this one, which is the West. The Americans support Erdogan's candidate, opposing candidate, not Erdogan, of course. And the West supports those guys, that guy, not Erdogan, for certain kind of reasons. Now, that's not why I'm going to talk about this little election over there, which is, I think, very important. I think the other president gives, the other candidate, not Erdogan, gives very strange messages towards the electorate, in my assessment. So now we have here, I picked two articles that I think something is fishy, or at least comes to show who's behind whom in the political arena as parties and candidates in Turkey. So let's see. We have this first article from Reuters, and it says Pro-Kurdish parties reaffirm support for opposition in Turkey runoff. So Turkey's pro-Kurdish parties on Thursday reaffirmed their support for opposition presidential candidate Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu in this weekend's runoff election without naming him, a day after expressing anger at his deal with a far-right party. So this is what the problem is. A far-right party is obviously against the Kurds, because what the Kurds want, they want their own land, and they want part of Syria and part of Turkey. So this guy's far-right endorsed Kemal, Mr. Kemal, but on the other hand, the same Kemal is endorsed by the pro-Kurdish. It's kind of like impossible. Unless this Kemal has a very mixed message, and you can't have it like that. I will explain. Let me just go back to the next article from Bloomberg. Erdogan challenger, the same Kemal, wins support of nationalist party in runoff. That is the one that they talked about here, about the far-right party. So what's going on here? You can't win both. For the same reason, this is Turkey, right here. And part of Turkey, I think it's southeast, that want to be taken, put together, to Kurdistan, which is part of Syria and North Turkey. Well, if you're a nationalist, that is a 100% no. So if I endorse you as a nationalist, that means you will definitely be against that. I can't. You have to be with the Turks, and that's it. Far right. Ta-da, right? But how come you are supported by the guys that I'm 100% against? Because these guys are the enemies of the far right, the Kurds, because they want to take out of Turkey a part for their own country. So you can't, how come these guys see you as you are for our interest but not Erdogan? How come? And you get endorsed by the worst people in this case, right? The far right. What do you give? How can you be both? You can't. What do you give, for instance, to the far right? You give them what? No more immigration, that's what he said. I'm going to stop the immigration, refugees, I think, or something like that. Refugees and all that. Okay, I'm pretty sure Erdogan can say the same thing. But then what are you going to do with the Kurds? These guys endorsed you for this, but the other guys endorsed you. It's very, very weasel-like. You can't have the unions and the big industrial companies, It's because they're enemies. You can't have both endorsing the same candidate, You can have the warmongering and the peace-loving, voting for the same guy that's going to promise you on the issue of war something. But both sides are going to see themselves in the candidate. How is that possible? First, I should have started with this. I am not an expert in Turkish politics at all. I'm not. I know Erdogan from what I know about him. I don't know almost anything about the other one. But without knowing that, with the information and knowledge that we have, this guy is endorsed by two opposite forces that are against one another. And they are on the same issue. Why would the Kurds endorse this guy? Only if they get something to gain. What would that be? And how come these guys, as I said, can endorse this guy when their goal would be, main one, don't give the Kurds what they want? So how come you can say, I give you and I give you in the same time? They can't. He can't satisfy the far right and the Kurds. Don't give me the Kurds one just to live peacefully. No, that's the same thing as, don't ask, don't tell. That's how it started, right? Or at least it was like the first or the third step already. It's okay. And from don't ask, don't tell, we got to, you're a this if you don't agree with everything I want. What? We started there and we ended up here? Yes. What are you going to do about it? Nothing. You lose your job if you say something. So, the same here. What are you going to do with this? You can't. So, somewhere is a weasel. And remember, the Kurds are used by the Americans whenever it's convenient. In Syria and in Turkey. That's why they are around. Otherwise, Erdogan and Assad would have probably did something bad, which I obviously don't support. But I think there would have been really much punch in the nose. I don't want to hear, they tried but they couldn't. They tried like, I'm trying to go to the store while I'm sleeping at home in my bed. Okay, so that's basically what it was. So anyway, that's my assessment on this one. I think the second candidate, Kalogu, is definitely on the other side, and he's sponsored and he's pushed by all those guys. And the Kurds are mostly helped by the Europeans. Oh yeah, let's give them a country. Why don't you give them a country from your country? Oh, nine. No, niemals, never, not. Anyway, thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just. Remember, I do not know the hanky-pankies, but it's too obvious that these guys come like that. And Erdogan, I know where he stands. This guy stands wherever the Americans want him to stay, and some Europeans who promote him and so on, which is, I read an article about Erdogan claiming that, not Erdogan, one of his ministers, pointing the finger at Sweden, helping the other side, and say, Sweden, you still want to join NATO? And you help these guys, so you show your true face, and Sweden is, yes, because we have like 25% in our country is also Swedish. Anyway, but since we're all the same, what's the difference? Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.